So Wayra, for those of you who don't know, means change in Spanish. And Wayra was started with a very, very simple but very powerful question, which is, why do all the innovative companies have to go to Silicon Valley in order to be successful? Very powerful question. It was asked to the gentleman who is the Chief Operating Officer of Telefonica. And it was asked because over 20% of all the applications that find themselves into the Apple Store actually come from Latin America. And the companies feel that in order to be recognized, in order to see value, in order to get good valuations, they have to up sticks and go across to Silicon Valley. And he paused for a moment, as he does, and said, well, that's a really good question. Why do they have to do that? And fast forward 100 days, and the very first Wayra Academy opened. So Wayra is Telefonica's digital accelerator, and the difference here is that our focus is on finding the very, very best digital talent on planet Earth and accelerating them. Our focus is purely on digital companies. And we look both at the people, i.e. the serial entrepreneurs in many cases, or even someone who has a world-changing idea. And then we're also looking at the business idea. So we look, and our differentiators, we look at people in addition to the idea. Why? Because we have learned firsthand that an idea is only as good as the people who are going to execute it. And I can take a bad idea and throw some great people at it and make it world-class, but I cannot take some bad people and throw them at a world-class idea and have a company that you all want to buy or invest in. So very simply, that is our focus. We have, we believe, some very, very clear values, which I'll run through in a second, which also, to my mind, are relevant to this point about innovation and about energy. We are currently the world's largest accelerator network. So we have 14 of these around the world. We pretty much have opened one every few months. And one of these typically accommodates anything from 10 to 20 companies. London right now is the largest accelerator of its kind in this network on planet Earth. So we have 20 companies that we accelerate every 4 to 9 months, depending on their performance. And what does that mean? Well, we invest in them, so we actually buy a share in them. We give them board members, advisors, mentors, industry experts, innovation sessions, everything that you can think of to take them from the idea that they've come in with or the business that they have, and to show a demonstrable increase in the valuation of that company when they leave. And we don't just focus on them when they're in with us, but we also focus on them when they're out. So we find them investors. We find them second and third round valuations. So the thing that we do, and it comes under this umbrella of innovation, is we believe we bring a couple of things that are slightly different. Because you'll hear a lot about accelerators, particularly in London. You'll hear a lot about them in Silicon Valley. You'll hear a lot about incubators. And the difference here is about pace. We do something slightly different, which is, yes, we focus on the people, very much on the people. To get selected into Wayra is an incredibly difficult process. If you think Dragon's Den looks tough, take it again. They go through weeks and weeks of HR interviews, IP interviews, legal, you name it, they really do. And then they still have to re-pitch at a 3-day event where they pitch against 40 other companies that they have to compete against. It's very, very tough to get in. And it's deliberately tough because some of the things that we bring to them is this lovely list here, which is funding, mentorship, a network. A network not just here in London, but the ability to take that company and very quickly scale it to all of the properties that Telefonica has around the globe. So today, Telefonica has 300 million clients, customers, 300 million. Telefonica owns O2, and then if you add their relationship with China Unicom and various other properties around the world, if you come into Wayra, you have potentially access to 1 billion customers around the globe, which is good, but you only get access to them if you hit your milestones, you are innovating, and you are that company that we believe is going to be successful. This is Wayra. So this is where all the magic happens, as they like to say. And what looks like a cool agency space, as someone described to me, or as one venture capitalist said to me, it just looks like a high-end frat room. And I went, yeah, not so sure. Because every element of what we do is about the psychology of innovation. So every piece of furniture has multiple uses. Where the startups even sit, they get the best light, the best pods. Even the kitchen is engineered so that it is quite simple. It is very startup-like. They are not treated like they're sitting in Google Campus quite deliberately, because what we want them to do is focus on work and focus on actually making their company successful. So every single thing at Wayra is architected around collaboration, innovation, work, even down to the furniture. So we have meeting rooms that look great, it's all good. This is where their milestone meetings happen. So I get to sit on the couch and I get to question them about what they've done in their 2-week sprints. They sprint in 2 weeks. So they set milestones, they have to achieve things, and every 2 weeks we review, what are you doing, how are you doing it? Many of them will sprint far faster than that, and that's okay. But we'll review every 2 weeks and then set them new goals to get at. And this idea of constant innovation cycles, get out, get your product out, have you got new clients, where are you in revenue, etc. Even here, that's not actually a ping pong table, it's a boardroom table, and that's not actually just a normal telephone booth, it's a Skype booth, so you can phone your investors in peace and quiet. And every single thing within Wayra, as I said, is about the psychology of making sure that you're there to work, be successful, but also hopefully have some fun. And yes, there are many of these tables, and we have table football and all kinds of fun things that everyone seems to enjoy. In terms of numbers, again, because we are a commercial enterprise that is focused on innovation, and as I said, it's the very best digital talent we can find on earth. But very quickly, 90% of the startups have launched. You can come in with a single idea. We did actually invest in a lady, who I'll talk about in a second, who literally had a great idea, zero funding. She had credibility. She'd been in a startup before. She came from agency land. And the first thing we said is, we'll give you some money, and the amount of money we give them is also psychological, because we only give them enough money to survive for a few months. We don't give them enough money to sit there for a year and think. They have to do. So we just give them enough, and then we give them the space, so they're there for 9 months. They have no rent, they have no overhead, they have nothing else. But we give them just enough money so they can survive and grow, and then they have to go out and find new funding. So 90% of them have launched, which is actually, again, quite unheard of. 40% of them are already doing work with Telefonica. So this value add that Telefonica brings is massive. It's not just about brand, it's not just about money, but it's about having instant access to clients. And then 70% of them are already selling, so generating revenue at the start. We have currently invested in 295 companies, not people, but companies. And we've got a call open right now. A call means that we're actually asking for applications to Wayra worldwide. So we should have that number up to 500 probably by the middle of next year. That's 500 companies under active management that we're working with every single day. So when someone asks me why I love my job, I can tell you, considering we invest in every possible vertical you can think of, every possible kind of business, there is absolutely no theme other than their digital companies. I have to say, you know, you work with challenging people who are hugely passionate about what they do. What's not to like about that? And every single day, I'm probably learning as much from them as they are about the people that we're surrounding them with. Only 1.4% of all the applications get in. 1.4%. And in the UK alone, we've had about 3,500 applications, not again from people, but from companies. Companies that have to be registered here in order to get into Wayra. They can come from overseas. We do have people from Eastern Europe in particular, we have people from Ireland, we've had people from the US, we've had people from Spain. It doesn't matter as long as they incorporate here and that they're willing to grow their business here in the United Kingdom. And then what we often find they do is then go back to their home countries where Wayra will have a network as well. So we invest at the moment in 2 companies every week. That's quite huge. Ask the average VC or average angel person what they invest in, and they'll probably tell you 2 a year. We're doing 2 a week at the moment. And these are some pretty heavyweight investors that I'm talking about. So that's great. And we get, as I said, an application an hour. And they are every single possible kind of company that you can think of. It does make judging them very, very difficult. We also just launched a new academy. So we have one entire floor just off Goode Street, which is great. It's a huge physical space that has all the startups sitting next to each other so they can learn from each other. We've also just opened the very first social digital accelerator in collaboration with the government. So the government gave us 50% of the money. Telefonica has put up the other 50%. And we're now accelerating another 10. So we'll have 30 startups at any one time at Wayra. Another 10 companies who at their heart, it's all about social impact done via digital execution. All about doing good. All about doing good, and you have to be able to measure how they're doing good, because that's one of the prerequisites for the government giving money. So they're doing good, but they have to have digital and innovation at their core. And they've now been with us for all of 3 weeks. And again, I have to say, incredibly, the energy that they create and the passion that they have for what they're doing and the impact that they're making. And these are some very, very world-changing ideas that we have. Small example, a lady is figuring out how to get all the cancer research databases in the world to talk to each other. Because currently, if you have an issue with cancer or you have a tumor, you send it off to one database, and you have to apply for permission to all the other databases around the world. That could take 3 to 6 months. You typically don't have 3 to 6 months. And she's figuring out an algorithm and has figured out how to mobilize through crowdsourcing a ton of data engineers who are giving freely their time to make these databases talk to each other, so that all you have to do is pay one license fee as a university or a research body, and you can have access to that information immediately. So you can have turnaround on tumor research immediately. These are very, very big ideas. There's nothing in there which isn't very game-changing. So we built them a new space because we couldn't fit them into our own. So they have their entire own floor, designed by lovely architects, all white, where you'll notice Wayra is black. They're all white. They're connected by staircases, and we populate these teams. So the 20 teams that sit upstairs go downstairs, the teams downstairs go upstairs, because at the heart of this, it's about innovation and also about commerciality. So we're making sure that we cross-pollinate all the time, whether you're a dating app or the cancer app I just talked about now in the application. We're making sure that you learn from each other. Because the heart of innovation is learning, and it's about constant innovation and about pace. And they learn genuinely more from each other than anything else that you can possibly teach them or we can possibly teach them. So we make sure that we really do cross-pollinate a lot. This is a quick, lots of wording on here about what we offer, and I've run through most of this already, which is generally, I think the biggest things we offer is a focus on people as well as product, the scale that Telefonica can bring them, and this relentless focus on making sure they are sustainable businesses. Because one of the other things I hear about innovation and about startups is that 95% of them fail. 95% of them fail within the first 3 years of them being in business. So far, we've had 3. We have a 5% failure rate. 5, in fact, slightly less. That's amazing. But the point about that is because we are focused on trying to create, and everything that we do is to try and create sustainable businesses rather than grow big very, very fast, get bored and move on to the next thing. We're trying to grow businesses that will continue to add value. They're a very good-looking bunch, as you can tell. So this is our class of 2013. These are all our co-founders and startup CEOs. Very different. Have a look at that picture and you'll say, and you'll start to look at demographics. The first thing you'll say is all male. No, it isn't. We met at this point, actually downstairs in our social innovator, half of the CEOs are now female. Half, which in a tech industry is an amazing thing. I can tell you that. An absolutely amazing thing to see. So half those companies have female CEOs, not just co-founders. And we're starting to see a huge rise in the number of women who are coming through who are either co-founders or running digital startups. Something I think can only be a positive. These are the companies we currently have within Wayra, and I'll run through a few of them to just talk about the innovation that they have. You are welcome at any one time, as I said, to come down, meet these companies, and talk to them in person. I'll try and do them justice in the time that I have and briefly run through why I think they're all very, very special. But the cohort, this is an important one. They are very, very different to what people think startups and entrepreneurs look like. For one thing, they're older. Here's the interesting thing. Everybody thinks that it has to be about wearing jeans and a bad T-shirt and a lot of beards and other things, and you all have to be under 22. Well, the interesting thing is most of ours are between 32 and over, actually, the bulk of them. And they have not just run one company, but several companies. Some very successfully, yes, but a lot of them not so much. And in fact, the thing that we look for is, have you learned from failure? And what have you done about how you failed? So one of the first questions we ask in our HR interviews of them is, have you failed? How did you fail? What did you do with that business? Why did you fail? All of those good things. In addition to just celebrating the fact that you're an amazing entrepreneur who's going to make lots of money, you have to have balance. Because when the going gets tough, and it does almost on a daily basis, you have to have the skill set to be able to survive that it's got tough and to get through that. And it's as much about aptitude as it is about attitude. So as you can see, very, very different picture to what people typically think. And the good news for me is that over half the teams that have been there only for 5 months have already got second round funding. In the middle of a recession, that's unheard of. When people are incredibly risk adverse and they're all looking for the next Facebook and the next Twitter, to have very early stage startups get second round funding, which really takes them into the next league, is very difficult and very rare. And these folks have only been there for 5 months and over half of them already got it. and we have a whole other deal pipeline already underway. So let's talk about a few of them. Different slides. This is BuzzMove. Why do you want to know about BuzzMove? Well, any of you who are moving home in the next 6 months do need to know about BuzzMove because they are the very first price comparison website for moving. They've figured out a proprietary algorithm which basically will populate everything that you have in your house. It will do it all for you. It will give you a guaranteed quote. And they have managed to sign up all of the leading removal companies in the country. And they are launching soon. They are the very, very first one to be able to do this. And we they get very irritated when I call them the money supermarket of the removals industry. Very bright, one to watch. So if you're moving, wait. And then wait for the site. It's coming in weeks. And I literally mean it is coming in weeks. EI Tech, emotion sensing on your mobile phone. If you're an advertiser, you want to know about this because it's an algorithm that runs in the background. It tells when you're talking to people whether you're happy, you're sad, you're depressed, or anything else. Right now being used for mental health issues. Soon to be pivoted to work with advertisers so that you can push certain kinds of adverts based on someone's mood on their mobile phone and the tonality of how they're talking. Welcome to EI Tech. You'll see that app and that technology launching at the end of the year, and their TED Talk is coming up this month. So for those of you interested in this kind of thing, their TED Talk's coming up in a couple of weeks. iHelp. This is an interesting one. The founder at the bottom, Andreas, had 2 heart attacks before he was 24. And the thing that he found was that the amount of response time was a leading indicator whether he would survive or not. So what has he figured out? An app that can tell you where the nearest defibrillator is, where the nearest trained person is, in addition to also contacting the hospital and asking them to send an ambulance. So what it is, if you think about crowdfunding or social networks, this is a social network for heart attacks. What it does, he'll hate me for saying this, but it's true. What it does is he either has an armband or on the phone, he literally presses one button. It's pre-populated, it will tell you and have a network based on GPS. It'll tell you where all of the defibrillators are that are around you and anyone who has ever been trained in CPR who can come and help. Plus, you'll contact people, plus makes out the calls until the hospital's there. Very, very interesting. Talking to the NHS right now. Hopefully what you can see is that there is no commonality in any of these businesses other than they're all trying to break the moat and break the model of what they're doing. Jollytech, an interesting one. 2 guys. Hands up, how many of you have O2 accounts? Anyone? Anyone on 4G? Anyone moved yet? Anyone aware of the 4G? Very good. These are the guys who've done all the training for O2 staff on 4G. They trained 9,000 people. They're a 2-man startup who wrote a gamification program to educate people and to make it into fun. So they've actually created a game and a character and questions and answers. It's a bit like a quiz show that has trained every single person in O2 on how to understand 4G in a way that sticks. We trialed this in Wayra. It was the most incredible thing. They actually trialed it on questions around Wayra. They found that, and you have a choice as to when you play the game. You don't have to play it in set periods. Most of the people in Wayra played the game between 1 and 3 a.m. in the morning. Very scary. They also played it for at least an hour a day. Sticky, really, really sticky. 2-man startup, hopefully soon to grow. An example of a team from overseas. They're actually from Slovenia. Insignia. This is the largest fundraising round in the UK currently. The largest, not in Wayra, not in any other, the largest period in the industry. This is an example of a tech where you use your mobile phone, use the camera on it. All you have to do is scan a QR code on any website and it automatically does the entire transaction for you, as you can see, from 10 minutes down to 10 seconds. It's your whole wallet in your phone. So if you think today you have one of those tap and go credit cards, think of this as tap and go on your phone. Tap and go on your phone. Currently valued very north of 5 million, if not 10, and in large discussions with all of the major vendors around, completely protected with IP. They are a very different example of a startup. They have 32 people working for them. Currently underway in Wayra. And then last but not least, how many of you use Nike Plus, Fitbits, Moves, all of those good things? Anyone? Great. Well, you need to know about this company. This company has figured out and has created a platform that makes Outlook, your journal that you keep, Twitter, your Fitbit, Moves, Nike Plus, and all of those things work together to answer some really important questions, like It can tell you that actually you should sleep for 6 hours and not 8, and you should do Outlook in the afternoon, not in the morning, because that's when you're most productive. It's a platform that has figured out how to make all of these different applications work together. Serial entrepreneur sold his first company to Lycos, because I know we talked about that early, for many millions. Then decided to go off and go and be a DJ at the Ministry of Sound, because that's what you do when you're an entrepreneur. And then decided to become a professional photographer, and then got bored of all of that and is now programming this and is on his way to North America to go and retail that. Quick experiment on them to tell you how sticky this is. On a Friday afternoon, we had 1,500 downloads. We decided to try an experiment to see how powerful social networks really were, so we all tweeted out to everyone and said, Narrato, free for the weekend. Download here. Because they've started off with the Journal app as the first example of what they do. 1,500 applications on Friday afternoon, 30,000 on Monday morning. 10,000 of them paying customers. The power of innovation, but also the power of social networks. So again, for all of you who have them, I have my Fitbit 2, a company to watch. And so that's it as regards innovation. Lots of other examples. I said I got 30 other companies in the stable, which we love. And when they all leave in about 4 months' time, I probably will be utterly bereft, as you can tell. Because I do genuinely think I have one of the best jobs in the world, which is to help them grow, watch how they innovate on a daily basis. This is about innovation in real time. This isn't about hot housing. This is about watching them pivot all the time. It's about watching all the assumptions that you have about what makes success happen. Completely change. Completely change. We have music apps that are focused on North America and get picked up in Japan on a weekend, and suddenly they have to fly to Japan and incorporate themselves there. Because people pay $28 for music downloads in Japan, and we pay nothing for them here via Spotify. But their entire business and what they thought was success was all on the one side of the world, and they've had to pivot completely. This happens almost every single day in Wayra, and which is why we live by that slogan, which is the rules are not yet written. Thank you.